I gotta say, diving into the world of frugality, always a good time. It never ceases to amaze me the creative ways people come up with to save a buck or two.
Oh, absolutely.
And this Reddit thread from R Frugal you sent over, talk about a gold mine.
Yeah.
People sharing their best wallet harm reduction habits. Sign me up.
Love it.
We're talking hundreds of responses here, so we're tapping into some serious crowdsourced wisdom on how to, be smart with spending without feeling like you're missing out.
What I find so fascinating is how this thread really highlights that frugality. It's not about this one-size-fits-all austerity thing. It's really about each person figuring out those little sneaky spending leaks we all have, those little things that get us, and finding what works for them to plug them. Personalized.
Yeah, it's like a game. And speaking of games, a ton of these Redditors are all about playing Beat the Temptation. Like one Redditor, and this one really hit home for me, was hooked on McDonald's hash browns every morning. Like talk about a classic convenience cost trap.
For sure.
But here's the thing. They figured out that those frozen hash brown patties at Walmart are not only cheaper, but tastier too. And here's the kicker. They're already at home. You're already there. Talk about outsmarting temptation.
I love that.
So what do you make of this whole convenience cost angle? It's everywhere.
Well, it's a textbook example, right, of how planning ahead and actually making the behavior in this case, saving money, making that the easier option, can be way more effective than just relying on willpower. Because let's be honest, willpower, it only gets you so far.
Totally. Willpower fades.
Right. But this is choice architecture, right? You set yourself up for success. So by simply having those hash browns ready to go at home, they've removed the friction of even considering that McDonald's drive-through.
It's like they say, right? Out of sight, out of mind, but for your wallet. And this is what I found so interesting, it's not just hash browns. I mean, this thread was overflowing with these convenience cost hacks. Okay, maybe this is just me, but I was buying like fancy coffee, and all the fancy creamers too. I was going to treat myself, but I was still ending up at Starbucks every other day.
It happens to the best of us.
It's like, what am I even doing? And it turns out a lot of these Redditors, they're onto this too. They're like, brew a delicious cup at home. It's not only cheaper, but it can be like this fun little ritual. I mean, I'm picking up on this theme here, right? It's about preempting those impulse buys. Those moments, those weak moments where you're just like, fine, I'll buy it. It's like they're one step ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I think is so clever about that is it's not about denying yourself. You're not saying, like, no, I can't have nice things. You're still enjoying those little luxuries, the fancy coffee, the satisfying hash brown. But you're doing it in a way that aligns with your financial goals.
It's like tricking your brain into saving money. I love it. And it seems like this whole planning ahead thing, it popped up a lot in this thread. Like one Redditor mentioned bringing their gym clothes to work so they wouldn't go home first.
Oh, smart.
Because that's the excuse, right? But I got to go home first. Nope. Clothes are already there. You're going to the gym.
That is brilliant. I love that. What we're seeing here, this is the power of habit formation, right? By making the behavior they want, that going to the gym, making it as frictionless as possible, they're setting themselves up for success.
Totally. And then there's the classic, right? The pack your snacks advice. Avoid those work plus vending machines.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, I know, might seem small, right? Like, snacks, come on. But these little choices, these seemingly insignificant choices, when you do them over and over, they can really snowball into some significant savings time and time again.
Absolutely, yeah. Consistency is key. It's those little things done consistently that add up over time.
And it's funny, right? You think frugality and you might think like, okay, time to cut back on all the fun stuff.
Right, like it has to be all sacrifice.
Exactly. But this Reddit thread totally busted that myth. I mean, there were so many tips, so many focused on affordable, leisure, fun, entertainment.
It's all about that frugal abundance, right?
Yes. Love that.
It really challenges that assumption we all have that you need to spend to have a good time.
Totally. Like, for example, how many times, be honest, have you bought a book, maybe got excited about it even, and then just sits there on your shelf, gathering dust?
Oh, all the time.
I know, right? Guilty. But these Redditors, they're all about that library life. Or the Libby app. Oh, I love Libby. The best. If you want to go digital, it's the way to go. And honestly, at park events, free concerts, even like hitting up the dollar store for some DVDs, there's a certain charm to it, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's resourceful. And it taps into this psychological principle. It's called the hedonic treadmill.
Ooh, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So We often think, right, that getting that new thing, that shiny new object, that's going to be the thing, right? That's going to make us happier.
Of course.
But the research actually shows that the happiness boost, it's usually fleeting. We adapt so quickly, right, to that new baseline. And then we just want more.
It's never enough.
Never enough. So by finding joy, finding pleasure in those simpler things, they're onto something. They're kind of like tricking their brains. They're breaking free from that gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it mentality.
They're hacking the system. I love it.
Totally. And think about it, the environmental impact of consuming less.
Oh, absolutely. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
It's win-win all around.
Speaking of win-win, can we talk food? I mean, restaurant meals, oof, they can really put a dent in your budget. Unintended.
Oh, I know it. Tell me about it. And it's not just the food itself, right? It's the drinks, it's the tip. It all adds up.
So true, which is why I was so here for this Reddit threads, basically ode to potlucks.
Yes.
And bring your own, or as they called it, BYO gatherings.
It's brilliant. It speaks to our innate desire for social connection. We humans, we're social creatures.
Daytime.
And research shows that it's often those experiences, those relationships, they bring more lasting happiness, true happiness, than just accumulating stuff.
Yeah, they only satisfy for so long. So let's be honest, cooking at home,
It's therapeutic.
it can be so fun. It can be rewarding. It's a chance to get creative in the kitchen, maybe try out some new recipes, impress your friends, break out those culinary skills.
Become a chef.
And who knows, maybe you'll discover some hidden talent, or a passion you never even knew you had. It all ties back to that DIY spirit, right, that we were talking about before. Remember that Redditor learned how to, get this, tile their own bathroom by taking those free classes at Home Depot.
That's amazing.
Talk about empowering.
Serious.
And think about all the money saved, right?
Yeah.
Which brings us to, shall we say, the more committed end of the frugality spectrum, I guess you could say.
The deep end.
The deep end, yes.
Yeah.
We saw some hardcore examples in this thread, like next level stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, get this. So we're talking about people repairing their own trucks
Wow.
to avoid those mechanic bills. Or like strategically choosing jobs, very specifically because those jobs offer free meals.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So, hey, more power to them.
Right. If it works, it works.
Exactly. But it got me thinking, where is that line between like being thrifty, being smart with your money, and a little too intense?
Right.
Like, how far is too far?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it makes you think about balance, right? Like frugality, it should add to your life, not take over, right?
Exactly. It's not about like deprivation,
Right.
right? Or turning into, I don't know, like a hermit who only eats lentils and wears like burlap sacks.
Okay, that's a hilarious image.
Right.
But you're right. You bring up a good point. We don't want to swing from one extreme, the overspending to the other, the extreme frugality, and end up feeling, I don't know, burnt out, resentful.
Absolutely.
It defeats the purpose.
What's the point?
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, right? That level of frugality that feels, good.
Yeah.
That feels sustainable. That's actually enjoyable.
Sustainable, yeah. Not like you're forcing yourself to do it all the time.
Right. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, honestly, is figuring out, well, what are your values, right? And your priorities. Like, what are the things you're actually willing to put your money towards?
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, where can you cut back without, feeling like you're sacrificing the things that truly matter to you?
So it's less about like following some strict set of rules, some like frugality rule book, and more about figuring out like what works for you, creating your own like personalized approach to spending that's in line with, your goals, your values, your life.
100%, yeah. It's about making these conscious choices that bring you closer to the life you actually want to live.
Yeah.
Financially, but also just like personally too, it's all connected.
It really is. So as we wrap up our little deep dive here, our deep dive into the amazing and sometimes wild world of frugal habit hacks, what are some of the, the key takeaways, the big aha moments that stand out to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think for me, what really comes to mind with this is that frugality. It's not about deprivation. It's about, like we were saying, intentionality. It's about really being mindful, being aware of those areas where you might be like on autopilot, those convenience costs, those impulse buys we talked about, and then getting creative, finding fun ways, often enjoyable ways to, save a little here and there.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing, right? And I love how this Reddit thread really highlighted that. It's the power of small changes, right? Building those habits over
That's
time.
little by little.
You don't have to wake up tomorrow and overhaul your entire life. Start small, experiment, find what works for you, and build from there.
Absolutely. Have fun with it. Remember, it's not a competition. What matters is that you figure out what level of frugality, what feels good, what feels sustainable, and what ultimately empowers you, right, to live the life you want to live.
Could not agree more. Well said. So, for everyone listening, here's a little something to think about. What's one small change, just one, that you could make today to start building those better, those smarter spending habits? And maybe even more importantly, what would that change, that one small change, allow you to do with the money you save? Just a little food for thought as you head out into the world today, ready to, conquer your finances and live your best life. Until next time, everyone.